Okay, hello. I'm Jussi, I'm from the government, I'm from the CERT. I've come here to tell you what it is. Some of you know already pretty well, but I try to tell it in an interesting way, in a non-bureaucratic way. So what are these CERTs or CERTs and what is an NCSE when it's at home? I joined the CERT in 2006. I've been working in InfoSec for 25 years, so I was doing mostly vulnerability testing, breaking software, fun stuff. After that, I switched sides of the table and tried to fix stuff that other people break. So that's basically the long and short of it. CERTs became a thing long before I got around. So this is actually a slide from 2007. I'm borrowing slides from 2007. Cool, huh? So CERT started in '88 with the Morris worm, which was a experiment. At least that's how Morris told everyone that he wanted to experiment on self-replicating code, and in doing so, he brought much of the internet of the day down. After that happened, they figured out that, okay, maybe we need to have people dealing with these kinds of things. The internet going down is not a good thing. We need something. And they created the first CERT, Computer Emergency Response Team / Coordination Center. So that's the first one. After that, things progressed quickly. So I started using internet in the 90s. That was a happy time. Now it's not such a happy time. But even then, we had things like viruses. We saw the first aspects of the commercialization. That's a mouthful. And well, at the time, we thought that, okay, around the turn of the century, crime found its way into the networks. And from there, things progressed quickly. In the early 2000s, worms were a thing, so self-replicating malicious code. After that, okay, these worms were kind of like a fun experiment, but if I want to do something with the code, I need to control it somehow. So we need a CNC. So malware started phoning home at around 2004. And pretty soon after that, we, at the time, said that botnets are a chronic problem. What did we know? Anyway, we thought it was a chronic problem then, so what's now? We saw DDoSes, phishing, and after that, things progressed even further. So many of the things that we see today were in its infant state at the time, and we thought that that was bad. I love the last 2008, what will be in the future, because this is us trying to predict the future in 2007. We will have Ubique threats. Does anyone remember Ubique? So internet is everywhere. We called it that Ubique. So it's the same thing all over again, but the term changes. But to be frank, many of those things have been happening since then. Anyway, that was that part of the history. When we look at the development of different CERT teams, that really shows. So we started from one in '88, and now we have literally hundreds of them. Most of them in Europe, but all over the world. I want to quote from here, so I'm using speaker notes. That's a new one for me. So in November '88, a computer security incident known as the internet worm brought major portions of the internet down to its knees. So that's what I said already. But I didn't know this. In October '89, a major incident called the wank worm highlighted the need for a better communication and coordination between teams. I didn't know about the wank worm, and frankly, I don't know if I want to know anymore. So we'll move on. This is a regular expression trying to tell you what these teams are. So when you combine these letters, you will most probably get the name of most of the emergency response teams. I think Carnegie Mellon pretty early on wanted to have a trademark of the CERT, so people couldn't use CERT. What was that for? What was that about? I don't know. Some of you might know in the audience. Tell me later. But that was one of the reasons why we needed to have CERT, so Computer Security Incident Response Teams, instead of Computer Emergency Response Team. But from there, it was a downward spiral. Now we had opened the floodgates. Now we could have things like Product Security Incident Response Team, Product Security Emergency Response Center, Mobile Security Incident Response Center. So I'm willing to bet that any combination of these letters exist. But it's a CERT. Whatever it says, it's a CERT. Okay, we're done with that. Good. The next thing you need to know is that the CERT is not a SOC. Okay, CERT, not SOC. The CERT is defined as an organizational unit, which may be virtual, or a capability that provides services and support to a defined constituency, so we have customers, for preventing, detecting, handling, and responding, so doing stuff, to computer security incidents in accordance with a mission. So you need to have a mission also. Whereas a SOC, as per definition, is an organizational unit operating at the heart of a security operation. It is usually not seen as a single entity or system, but rather as a complex structure to manage and enhance an organization's overall cybersecurity posture. You get it? No, I didn't either. So anyway, SOC, trying to put it very bluntly, SOC is something that manages an organization, usually. And CERT is something that is related to information sharing. So you try to protect constituents, but in a different way. And information sharing, I think, is in the heart of it. Okay, I'll try to give you an example. So usually our work begins with a contact or a report. And I'm quoting, I don't know this by heart. So I've looked at our case management system, and these are the kinds of cases we see. Denial of service, service disturbances, maintenance breaks, unwanted marketing, cookie-related issues, spam spreading malware, sextortion scams, O365 phishing, bank phishing, other forms of phishing, whaling, CEO fraud, business email compromise, SMS, MMS spam, number forgeries, international revenue share fraud, other types of telecom fraud, one-giri calls, tech support scams, investment scams, dragon's den scams, romance scams, subscription trap scams, other kinds of social media scams, fake web shops, digital skimming, information stealers, coin miners, other types of malware, botnets, break-ins, data leaks, key management mishaps, targeted attacks, and I think deepfakes is somewhere in there. So we have all kinds of things because, well, we are the Finnish national CERT. I'll go into this later. And everyone in Finland is our customer, and if they have something that they want to say that, okay, this probably is cyber and something that you are cyber, so okay, these are the kinds of things. And actually, we love this. So bring it on. If you have a problem, please tell us. If you don't tell us, we won't know. And if we won't know, we won't be able to protect anyone else. And that's basically where the information sharing starts. As an example, we did an alert on Akira, the ransomware, some weeks ago. And turns out that our US counterparts alerted like 2 months after the fact. Correct me when I'm wrong. And they said that, okay, this is something that Finns already warned about. And we were able to warn about Akira because you told us. So thanks. So we were the first in the world on that. So, okay, in a nutshell, something bad has happened, hadn't happened but could have happened, or you don't know if it was bad but it sounds bad, and it might happen, so you report it to us. The usual thing that we do is that there is badness in the internet. Okay, why is it in the internet? So let's do something about that. So notice and take down. It used to be called the abuse process, but that has a bad ring to it. Okay, don't get me started on abuse helper, but let's not go there now. So I'll tell you a story. This is a personal story because it's one of the early ones that was big. So there was this statue. Erka knows. Erka and Kauto are nodding in the front row. There was this statue in Tallinn, and they decided to move it. And the Russians thought that that was a bad thing. So I don't know if you've been following the news, but this is kind of a pattern. Because they started, they had plans to move it, and I think they were, because it caused a lot of unrest among the Russian population, they decided to speed it up and try to, I'm probably exaggerating, but try to do it in the secret of the night on the 26th and the 27th of April. The logical conclusion was this. So riots everywhere, people looting stores and stuff. Only this time it spilled out to the internet. So this was the cartoonist view of that time, that now the warfare has moved to the internet. Now we have Klickskrieg. And in a way, I don't know how in modern terms it would be called. Hybrid operation, info war, cyber operation, all of the above. We had funny things like this. The 9th of May celebration. To celebrate the 9th of May, please ping the reek.ee to take it down. And we will be victorious. And that was, the funny thing is, the not so funny thing is that they actually were. So these are actual graphs from that day. So upper part is bytes going out, the lower part is bytes coming in. So they actually had a lot of people doing this pinging. And I think ICMP is not on the top, UDP is on the top, but still there is ICMP traffic and every drop counts when you are doing a DDoS. We had much more serious stuff though. So this is from the 10th to 11th of May 2007. And when you see a sudden upward spike and a sudden downward spike, you know that somebody has rented botnet time. So that was like, okay, botnet joining in, traffic, and then, okay, out of cache, botnet stopping. And this was actually a very big thing at the time. So they were struggling to keep the networks running and the systems running. There was real danger, as Hillar Aarelait, the head of the Estonian CERT, our Estonian counterparts, said that they were afraid that the citizens wouldn't get milk, bread and gasoline, as he put it. So this is where the CERT cooperation really kicked in my view. We had a joint IRC channel. IRC channels were big in the day. They were big until like last year. Now it's not IRC anymore. Some are sad. Time to move on. And on the common chat, they were really busy putting out fires everywhere, trying to restore connectivity to systems, which many of which they actually managed. And we agreed that, okay, they try to handle the stuff that happens in Estonia. And we handle the stuff that happens outside of the Estonia, because, well, they had their hands full. So we get data from them, and we send a lot of email like this. There is bad traffic coming from your IP address to Estonia. This is Kauto writing the email. Please investigate if there is something anomalous. I deliberately chose one of the early examples because, well, I've seen better worded emails, but that's what you want to say. You are doing something bad. These people are suffering. Please stop. After a while, we get so much data from them that I was writing scripts until the early hours in the morning to handle the amount of data that they got sent to us. For example, of the botnet IPs. I think we sent mail to 120 countries in the world that, hey, much more specific messages that this IP on these dates was attacking this IP with this protocol, and we believe that this is a result of this system being compromised and used for bad purposes, and it should be cleaned. So that is basically the standard kind of CERT message. And frankly, I'm not sure how much that helped, because, well, the attack stopped after they lost interest, but I'm sure it didn't hurt. And this is something this is much of our bread and butter even now. The things that we try to prevent change. So then it was DDoS, after that it was malware hosting, after that it was exploit kits. It's always something. So we try to tell them that, hey, you are doing bad things, you shouldn't be doing this, please stop. And you are probably a victim of a criminal. So basically a criminal has compromised your systems, and you don't want this to happen to you. You don't want to be a victim. So that's basically the real thing that we're trying to say. Okay, that's the bulk of the issues. We just get them in and see immediately that, okay, this is a notice and takedown abuse case in the traditional terminology. But normally, the case needs to be triaged. Triage is a term coming from the medical realm, saying that, okay, we have people that are in various stages of hurt, of injury, and we need to find who is about to perish first, and let's focus our attention there. And this is really the key to all CERT work. We do get a high volume of requests, hundreds per week, and even after all the automation, so we have like thousands a day, but the automation takes care of a bulk of those. But after that, humans need to be looking at significant amount of tickets. And it's hard work. You don't want to do that for more than a week, so there are weekly shifts to do that. You can understand that, I'm sure. And it needs expertise. So if you are not sure if this is how bad this is, you might be focusing on the wrong thing. And part of it is why it's so difficult is that we are trying to protect an entire country. There are supply chains that we don't know of. And I'm sure that there are supply chains, so like you are buying from this company and they're buying from that company, and if that company fails, then a critical thing somewhere, water, defense, something, stops working. There's really no way to tell, except experience and information sharing. This is basically how we do this now or pretty soon. It's pretty small, so I'll walk you through it. So we get a report coming in, there's a heading, it's usually an email, it might be a web form, then somebody has written something, it's usually nonsense, but you can get to the gist of what happened from reading through that. While you're doing that, you find out that, okay, this is probably a data leak. I don't know for sure, but it sounds like a data leak. And there are some things that might be related to extortion. There's definitely something about Microsoft 365. He says that he's from this company. We think it's from the building sector. They definitely need help, oh yeah. And from what we can gather, they are significant. And then once you get that, you can say that, okay, it falls into category A, which is like, okay, everybody start running, or to B, okay, this is pretty bad, it needs to be handled ASAP, and then CD, which is not that serious. Things related to, has this actually happened? Has something happened? So sometimes that's really non-obvious when you get the first description of what happened. And ideally, when it has happened, when have you noticed it happened, and when has it stopped? Then, have you contacted the police about this? Can we talk to the police about this? Because, well, we have legal barriers that our reports are confidential. If you don't want us to talk to the police, we won't. If you don't want us to talk to the other authorities, we won't, even if it would help you. That's how we roll. We will tell you that. Is there outside help there? And then, okay, who's going to handle this? So that's basically a triage. And we do have manuals for this. We have guidances, processes, playbooks, but it's still, I believe, it's on-the-job training. You can ask questions later, I'm told. Sorry. So it's difficult work. This is a key of what certs are about. Then you analyze the incident. I won't go into that. That's an hour, that's 2 hours or something like that. So let's not go in there. But anyway, there's analysis, magic happens. I'll just give you some examples. We had this case. I bet you haven't heard a long time after this. So I wanted to tell you this because, well, we did notice and take down on Russian business networks for a while. So badness happens, okay, report on badness, business as usual. They respond to us that, okay, thank you, thanks for notifying us, we'll take care of this immediately. And they didn't. So they did and they didn't. So basically, from this IP, the badness didn't happen anymore, it was the next IP. So there were a criminal ISP who was in the pocket of the criminals. We haven't heard of actual legal customers there, but we saw a lot of bad stuff happening there related to the malware that was relevant at the time. This was a big thing back then. It was picked up by The Economist. At the time, these kinds of magazines didn't bother with cyber because, well, cyber isn't important. And they said in here, the company doesn't exist. It has no legal identity. It's not registered as a company. Its senior figures are anonymous, known only by nicknames. Its websites are registered at anonymous addresses with dummy emails. It doesn't advertise for customers. So, well, it's a bad business that doesn't advertise for customers, except they had customers. They had paying customers all the time because the criminals knew about that. So you can't really whack-a-mole this guy. So you can do notice and take down all you want, and nothing will change. So clearly you need to do something else. At this time, this operator was dismantled eventually. I don't remember the details at this point, but one thing I do remember is that everyone was circulating the IP blocks related to these companies. There was a whole host of companies, and everyone started blocking them. So good luck to you who received, when the operation was dismantled and you received a fresh IP block that has previously belonged to the Russian business networks because nobody would talk to you. That was going on for a while. There were a lot of companies, a handful of companies like this. There was S-Domains in Estonia and who figured out that it's actually a bad thing to try to operate a criminal enterprise from Estonia. And Intercage and stuff like that. That was the time. Let's skip ahead 10 years or so. Pseudo-dark leads. This was the dark age of web browsers, you could say. People were using the internet like never before. People were operating the internet using their browser and add-ons such as Flash and what have you. And this created ample opportunity for attackers to try to find vulnerabilities in browsers. And oh boy, did they find them. So if you have heard the advice that don't click on links, it's from this era, because clicking on links might mean that you get an exploit and your browser is affected and code is running on your system. That doesn't really happen now, does it? Usually you get a scam. But still we tell people not to click on links as they're like something volatile and like you could burn your hands. Well, when in fact, you need to enter your credentials or something like that. So the advice comes from this time. It's like the next change passwords often, that kind of advice. Anyway, these guys were doing, they were compromising. The other thing that was going on, publishing platforms have become the vogue. And those were vulnerable, damn vulnerable as well. So this was a ripe area for criminals. They compromised the publishing platforms. They were like regional newspapers in Finland. They inserted an iframe that contacted a server which forwarded connection to another server, and then they checked whether you were probably from Google or security research. If you were not, and you didn't have a cookie, then you would get the malicious payload exactly once, and you might get compromised. This was done in this elaborate fashion in order to make sure that if you were trying to follow that link again with the same browser, you wouldn't see the same result, and you would say, okay, there's nothing wrong, nothing to see here. And in this case, we analyzed the web pages. Of course, we saw these. We had Havaro at the time, so national census system. We could see that, okay, we are seeing exploit kits coming from here. So this web page is compromised. Let's contact the owner. Let's get a sample of the compromise. Let's get the second stage. Let's talk to everybody who owns these second stages, trying to follow the lead from there. And eventually, we were able to take control of the domain used by the attacker and then see all the victims coming in and notify the victims. So this is the real kind of active defense in my terminology. So you don't just do notice and takedown, you try to go to the root cause of the thing and try to stop it from happening. And without having the legal, of course we didn't bring them to justice, which would be one of the end goals, but it's not under our department. Somebody else from the police can come talk about that part. Okay, that was analysis. Usually, I stumbled upon coordination there. So, okay, you have different kinds of victims. You want to talk to different kinds of people to make sure that everyone is protected. But I'll try to talk about coordination more with another case, and this is probably familiar to you, many of you. So this is 2016, and these are the automatically reported incidents that we saw during roughly a week. So the colors mean that, okay, it's one threat, one color is another threat, so it's typed by color. Back in those days, during the weekend, nobody was paying attention to this thing because it was working perfectly and there's no problem. So we get reports in and we see that, okay, the report comes from a trustworthy source, it's legible, it seems legit, so the automation just forwards to the operator, please take care of this, notify your customers, and okay, we're done with it. One Monday, it looked like this. So you see these spikes there, now they're here. So what's happened? So this is a machinery that has already forwarded this something unknown to operators to take care of, and we didn't know what that was. And this is where the coordination part really kicks in. So everyone was at the time trying to figure out what this was about. And many of our peer CERTs were among those that were looking into this thing. So there was a lot of analysis of data. There was a lot of data analysis going on. There was a lot of victim communication going on, trying to get a copy of whatever was involved and try to find out what it was. And eventually we found out that there was a single cause related to that, and that was the Mirai botnet. So basically, there were vulnerabilities in many devices. Zixel was one of the vendors that was mentioned heavily. There was an administrative port related to TR69 protocol that was affected, and the criminals had figured it out, and they had over the weekend started spreading malware to all of these devices, and these devices were doing bad stuff for their bidding. And because of the early warning information we had received, reports had already gone out to the operators and to the end users. Okay, the reports were not optimal, so they didn't have the right information, but that's life. We were pretty quickly able to figure out what was the cause of it all, how to move forward from that. And by the virtue of us being a teleoperator, we could also say that, okay, they are scanning these ports, let's block this port, so they can't scan that anymore, so we can contain this within Finland. Let's put out an alert, a red alert, our biggest alert. Let's toot all the horns. Let's put a text TV page. You probably didn't know that we have a text TV page. There was a text TV page saying, hey, home routers are vulnerable. I'm sure we have reached someone through that. And this is what happened after that. So we had a huge spike and a trickle-down effect after that. So because of the effective coordination, of course, all automation played a big role, but I want to emphasize that because we knew all the players, we had all the communication channels open, we could coordinate this from a single point to everyone pretty quickly, have it contained, not eradicated. We still have mirror reports, of course. No badness in the internet ever disappears completely. I'm pretty sure of this. I want to give you another example of this. And that's why we need to be persistent. We need to keep doing this. Once we start doing something, we might need to do this for the rest of our lives or rest of the authorities' life. There's another case, old favorite, that really exemplifies this well. The cyber criminals usually have a motive of making money, and that means that they want to have malware that they can control. Control is a weak point. You can strike the control, you can take the malware out. This guy, Artur Boiko, was an Estonian taxi driver that was just really pissed. He was really pissed at his insurance agency and his operator, and he could code. So he created a malware that did two things. It tries to spread to vulnerable systems, and it attacks the insurance agency and the operator, and nothing else. So I'm willing to bet that we still have some all Apple worms still happily spreading around the world and trying to attack these two things. So we need to we need to keep alerting the select few people about this worm in order to make that stop someday, perhaps. A funny thing about Artur Boiko, there was recent news about him last October that he was stealing documentation related to 300,000 Estonian people. So he hadn't learned his lesson in jail related to this one. But that's a side note, just a funny side note. So coordination, this was our graphic designer's best idea of what the coordination looks like, and I love it. So basically, when you have an incident, you have a lot of things that can happen. When you have a service, it includes things like you have load balancers or other software as service things. Then you have some servers somewhere doing something, and then you have a backend which you might have at home. These could be caches, this could be forms, whatever, and then you have a backend which is a database somewhere in your own premises or in some other cloud. And on the other end, you have users trying to use it through a home router, using an operator, going through the internet as the series of tubes with all the other operators. And when you have the problem, it could be anywhere in this chain. And all of these are probably in some country or another, not the same country. So you need to know pretty much everyone in order to make sure that when something hits the fan, you know who to call. That's why we had the Ghostbuster game there, who you're going to call. And the thing that magically happens from all of the reports that we get, we like to call situational awareness. And oh boy, we do have that. So I mentioned alerts already. So when we do get something that, hey, you need to act, we have an alert. If it's something that's a trend, Then we have a weekly report, a monthly report, a yearly report, and we tell people that, hey, you might want to look into this now. We have vulnerability reports, we have InfoSec Now, which is roughly our blog. News, then we have sector reports, and then we have a whole bunch of different kinds of, okay, this classified report is for X and stuff like that. But anyway, we do have a lot of different reports. And that might to you sound like, okay, we are producing a lot of paper, but no, that's the thing with situational awareness. It's like, okay, we are telling you this because you need to know. And you need to analyze this, and you need to analyze this in order to find out whether it affects you, whether you should do something. So we are doing this in order to help you protect yourself. And to do this, the situational awareness products need to be on multiple levels. So we need the technical things, we need the IOCs, okay, this IP is bad, okay. We need managerial things, we need both things. You need to invest in security. And this is bloody difficult. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because otherwise I would be spending the rest of my time on that. And as I told you, many of the things are related to people not in Finland. That's why we need the other CERTs. Of course, some of the CERTs are in Finland also, Ericsson and so on. But usually, one of the main focuses is that we want to look abroad. And the CERT organizations vary as much as the CERT acronym itself. So we have all kinds. We have national CERTs, which are like us, protecting the nation. We have governmental CERTs, which are protecting governmental systems or this authority system or these kinds of systems. We have sectoral CERTs, for example, healthcare CERTs and energy CERTs. These are looking after these kinds of companies. Enterprise CERTs, if you are a big enough company, you might have a CERT that's trying to look after all the different players within your large enterprise. I put in other just like, okay, what the hell, usually. I probably forget something. You might be a publicly funded body, you might be from the academia, you might be a commercial entity. And we need all these, so that's all good. But there's one piece that's critical, which is trust. We need to make sure that we don't reveal our hand to the enemy. So we want to make sure that the information that we share only goes for doing good, for the purpose of trying to take down the bad guys, for example. And there are some funny things, you know that, okay, there's commercial CERTs, public CERTs probably have different kinds of ideas about secrecy of information. Commercial entities might not want to tell the government some things. The government might not want to tell commercial entities some things. And then within the governments, we have funny things like the CERT is located where? So the CERT is located, okay, let me throw the dart. Okay, it's in defense. So in Denmark, it's in the defense. So for example, we do talk with our Danish counterparts, but they are mostly interested about APTs, as far as I know. I might be wrong, because things have changed. But there's also an energy CERT, which is a very good counterpart for us, because, well, we are looking after everybody. UK is in intelligence, and that's a funny thing, because, well, it's military intelligence, and suddenly there's a CERT. It's like, okay, what happened? Now these are talking about intelligence sharing, and these are talking about, okay, protecting the interest of UK. That must be fun. Interior security, which is funny because, well, if you are a police force, you might be obliged to investigate anything you know of. And if you are working under the premise that I'm been stating that, hey, we are trying to help, please tell us things, you don't really want the police to investigate everything. So we might want to take care on what we tell those guys. Ministry of Economics in Japan, they are very good dealing with software companies, not so good in dealing with abuse and that kind of things, and so on and so forth. So these they have different cultures, different idea on what to protect, what is important. And that means that the communication is tricky. And one of the ways to tackle that trickiness is that we have a whole set of different kinds of groups. So within Europe, at least this EU CERT network, which is an EU thing, European Governmental Search, which is like, okay, governmental search, like-minded people, highly trusted group, predates that one. TFC search, which I believe originated from the academia and has different kind of client base. Nordic search, which has close cooperation within Nordics. And the kinds of things that you do with these, like, okay, different European governmental search, which most European governments are targeted with the same kind of attacks. That's like natural thing. You talk about those kinds of attacks. Nordic search, well, okay, we talk about this already in the EGC, so we have other things to talk about in here, as an example. On global scale, we have the Forum of Incident Response Teams, which was one of the first slides with the hundreds of members. There's very little trust because, well, you don't know all the hundreds of members. But it's very good in providing events. Okay, you can meet everybody there. You have a directory on who to call. If you don't know who to call, okay, first knows. So that's good. There's the IWWN, which is a much close-knit group related to country governmental search. There's the organization of Islamic search. So that it's mostly in the Middle East, but there's also like in the Muslim countries around the world. I have no idea, but it's all good. It's all good. Asia Pacific search, of course, they have different kinds of threats out there. They have malware we have never heard about, and so on and so forth. So it's not really straightforward on where to talk about what. And of course, these groups, you can join first. You can't join European Governmental Search. Well, you can if you're a government, but most people can't. So how inclusion criteria is different. And of course, there's also the AA kinds of clubs. So, hi, I'm Jussi, I have this problem. And there's secret handshakes, and we talk about this thing. And other people that talk to me are people that trust me. So that's a symptom of this whole system that when some group becomes useful, the trust diminishes and people start talking one-to-one. But that's how it works, and you just need to network everywhere. A case example, I don't have a picture on this one, I couldn't choose. So the WannaCry worm, I remember this very well because I was a duty officer, 2017. I was actually trying to do some work on my apartment because, well, there were contractors coming in next week and I needed to do some work before that. I was really expecting for the weekend, but, well, things took a turn for the worst when I think it was Spain that first said that they have this funny malware. It's okay, Spain has funny malware, I'm noted down. Then UK, we have this funny malware, okay. Is there something going on? 2 countries in Europe, similar symptoms. And pretty soon, all hell breaks loose. So WannaCry was a self-replicating malware that used a 2-month-old vulnerability. Vulnerability fixed 2 months ago, but people hadn't patched, and it spread like wildfire all through the internet. And, well, then there were we in crisis mode. We were talking to EGC, which I talked to you about, IWWN, trying to find out what this was, what kind of malware how did it spread. People were analyzing the malware, and you are really short on time on this one at this point. And we were able to make the first alert minute after UK said that this is a problem from them also. So that's pretty good because, well, we were preparing that if this is more widespread than we thought, then we will have a hard time. And we were talking, I think the heads of preparedness in Finland talked about the malware on Sunday. We had an alert on Saturday and so on and so forth. And much of this, what we were doing in WannaCry, was trying to reach out to the companies, because companies, private companies, I think they are responsible for, the old figure was 80% of the critical infrastructure. I think it's more now. So we need to make sure that we reach all the companies, and that's what we have. The best practice to do that currently is to form information sharing and analysis centers. So for example, we have a whole group dedicated to energy, where we try to get the energy companies involved, trying to get them to tell us what is important for their security, and then we try to give them little hints on how to adjust their operations. So basically try to get two-way communication. So in cases such as WannaCry, we could try to adjust the message so that they could react to it as much as possible. Okay, I've been talking about cases for a while now. I'm running out of time. I still have a few slides, but let's see how it goes. Let's talk theory. First has been doing standardization related to CERTs, and this is one part of it. So this is what they think a CERT should entail. Not necessarily all of them, but they probably should be in the realm of incident handling, and these are all the things that are related to incident handling, related to vulnerability handling, situational awareness, gathering data, communicating the data, and doing other things besides. So awareness building, training exercises, and perhaps even go a bit into the SOC realm, trying to monitor the things that happen in the constituents yourself. There's a whole bunch of things. I have to have one slide with two small text, so this is for your reference. So there's lots more in that. But if we look at a couple of cases related to this, one is relatively recent, Ivanti vulnerabilities. I'm not sure if in this case we had pre-notification related to vulnerabilities. Sometimes we do. Sometimes the vulnerability has been reported to us and we know about the vulnerability beforehand, and that helps a lot. But in the case, for example, related to these Ivanti vulnerabilities, one of the networks actually set up a call with all the certs with Ivanti, and they explained the situation to us. And that helped a lot. So everyone was kept appraised on the board. Everyone was trying to analyze the vulnerability, of course, trying to share their findings, trying to, for example, decrypt the configuration files that Ivanti tried to protect, tried to get hold of the compromised device, investigate them, tell you how you could search your networks for these kinds of devices. And in the end, some of the countries had it so bad that they wanted to raise the level of readiness. So basically we kept on having scheduled calls and scheduled, okay, this is how we are doing right now, because we were on raised alertness level. Another case, pretty recent, this is the no-name 67/DDoSia operation, where if you are hosting Zelensky at your country, you will get a DDoS. If you join NATO, you get a DDoS. I'm not saying who does it, but hey, these are the things that happen. This is from this morning. At 11:40, they advertise on their Telegram channel every morning what to do today, what the bots are starting to do. And this is what they did today. So it's Italy today. So each morning, if I'm a duty officer, I go to the channel, I look at information that bot has compiled to me. Not Finland. Okay. Good. That's not on the schedule today. And they were lazy today. It's 11:40. Usually it's between 8 and 9. And usually it stops when they stop working. So it's like during daytime, which is nice for me. So I can do things in the evening. So yeah, not complaining. And there's a lot of, I'm not showing a lot of information. So for each of the targets, we know exactly how they attack, which paths they attack, what payload data they give. So that's really nice. That's really nice information sharing related to those. They are actually using new methods, layer 7 DDoS methods a lot. So in the beginning, there was a lot of analysis and sharing of information. User agent, what kind of targets, what kind of paths, how to mitigate those in these kinds of systems. So that was really helpful. I'm already out of time, but I'm the last performer. I just keep talking. I have like 5 slides left. I promised you that I'll talk about CERTs and NCSCs. I've been talking about CERTs a lot. I haven't touched upon NCSCs. We are the National Cybersecurity Center, NCSC, Finland. That doesn't have a lot of abbreviations. We just have NCSCs, except for the fact that the UK titled themselves the NCSC. So we are NCSC FI, Netherlands is NCSC NL, and there's the NCSC. And guess what? There's no good definition of what an NCSC is. There's not. It's not defined anywhere. So there was no good definition of CERT, there's no good definition of SOC, there's no good definition of these. We do know that, for example, Netherlands is under the Ministry of Justice, UK is in the intelligence, we are from communication, so it's pretty much the same thing all over again. The only thing that I find that's different is the range of services and range of powers related to NCSCs. For example, these are not all of this, we do like 80 to 90% of these things that are shown in this slide. So we have things related to security policy, how you should measure your security maturity, do tooling. We don't do that as much as we should. We have regulation, we do cryptographic services, we audit systems mostly related to classified things, but anyway, guidance, reporting, these are all the standard things I have talked about, alerts, takedowns, situational awareness, and we could do, we are doing sensor systems related to networks. We could, some other NCSC are do also host-based sensors, log-based sensors, OT-based sensors, cloud-based sensors. So it's much more involved with the customers, tries to be much more proactive and much more wide-ranging. That's all I can say about NCSC, how it's different. The MIRT is mobile incident response team. So trying to spell out the fact that, hey, we do come to your office and try to help you there, whereas normally we just drink coffee at our own offices or at home. The last thing I want to say that the NIS2 regulation will change the landscape related to CERT somewhat. One thing is that you need to have a CERT. Now, it was a good idea back in 2007. Now it's the law or something like that. And that's a good thing. So you all get certs, or all the countries get certs. Most of them, I think, do already, but it's not a bad idea to have it in the law. There have been cases where a European country has suddenly forgot that they need a cert, and they had defunded the cert completely, and it just disappears from the map. Now it's in the law, you can't do that anymore. And there's a lot of things that you need to do when you are a cert. So these are from the catalog. This is why I had the slide. You don't need to read it, but you can see that roughly of the half of the things that first thought that certs should do are in the law. And this is a very good thing. A couple of other pointers. There are competent authorities, because NIS2 also has liability for not maintaining your security posture. And there's competent authority, which is the regulator that regulates what is good enough security. And that's the CERT, which is a separate entity. And this is important because, well, we don't want to get the situation where they are afraid to report things to us because they get liabilities from there. So we need to have a firewall there. But I'm confident that in Finland we have a good track record of doing regulation so that we do it together with the regulated parties. So we try to do the sensible thing. But I'm afraid that this will take some time before we figure out, everyone in Europe figures out how to do this properly, how to have the carrot and the stick, or both. And I'm going to stop with an idea that Jyrki Huhta told me yesterday, that it reminds me that we are kind of in the situation that we are going through stages of grief with cyber as a society, as Europe. It's called a Kübler-Ross. I used Kübler-Ross because it could fit in the slide. Stages of grief, okay, I can't fit the text anymore. So you all know this. You report a security problem somewhere, there's denial. No, there's no problem. And okay, there was something borderline between denial and anger. So, no, there's no problem. No, there's no problem, and I'll sue you for that. And I'm kind of hoping that with NIS2 we will get to the bargaining part. Okay. We need to do security, but how much is enough? Please don't demand too much from me. So that would be a good place. It would be an increase in maturity related to security. Many of us are in the depression part. You hear it all the time. It's like, this is broken. This is broken too. I can't stand it. And I think we should, as a cybersecurity professional, move to the acceptance part that, okay, it will all work out in the end. Thanks.